Welcome back to Down the River. Let's talk a little bit about this new switch setup that I put in. Now, I try to take a lot of time and effort and positioning the switch in such a way that I could reach it from my seat. It's out of the way not to get damaged by anything. It's hopefully above any water that's going to be in the boat. Got all my wire run up under my seat so everything looks neat and clean. Just took the boat back out on the water the other day, and if you watch the video, you see I took on some water over the transom. I actually took on a lot more water than I wanted to over the transom, and I had to use my bilge pump. So it happened so fast, I don't even remember if the float switch kicked on the pump. I don't remember. I can't tell in the video. But when it happened, what I had to do is reach down here to my panel, and on here, this is my master switch, turns the panel on so I can turn on my bilge pump, which is the closest to my seat. The idea was, the closer to the seat, the easier it is to reach. But I got to hit two switches to turn it on. Because my master switch turns off the panel, which turns off the pump. So I took that water over to transom, had to reach down here, fumble around the switches to get it turned on. And I didn't like it. It wasn't comfortable. Didn't make me feel good. So last time this happened, years ago when I first got the boat and I took on water, I put my float switch on, got my bilge pump set up, and I put a switch right here in this area. Sat right here, right next to my ignition, all my motor controls. There was a switch. I could reach back, turn that switch on and off very easily. It wasn't ever out of the way. It was quite convenient. I could be riding down the river. You know, some people pull the plug, let the water drain out. I don't want to reach back there and pull the plug, running the mud skipper. I'd flip it on, drain the water with the pump. So what I'm going to do, probably going to leave a switch panel. I'm going to leave my float switch, and I'm probably just going to run a whole nother switch right here as well. We'll have 3 different switches to turn that pump on. It's not going to be too bad running one from the motor here. I come right off my ignition wire, run it up to the switch, run a power wire back down the motor umbilical here, and tap it right into the bilge pump wiring harness so I can turn the pump on and off from the motor if necessary. All I need to do is run that hot wire to the pump. So let's do that today. Got a switch. I might have to fabricate a little switch plate here, get everything mounted up so I can put my bilge pump switch back on the motor where I can grab it easy if I need it, or when I need it. So stick around with me, and let's get this project knocked out today too. Alright guys, so I messed around trying to find somewhere to mount a little switch plate that I made, and there didn't see anything I liked. Well, I remembered a while back I put an electric fuel pump on here, and I had a switch here for my electric fuel pump that I mounted into my ignition box. So I just pulled the plug out and put my toggle switch right there. It's pretty easy to get into it. There's one Phillips head screw on the back. The plastic cover comes off. You can access the back side of that switch panel. Now, I'm not going to lie, don't suggest you to go in there lightly. You don't want to go in there and mess anything up in your switch panel. So you go in there, you take that risk of messing it up. But I'm going to either tap into a hot wire that's here in the panel or run a independent wire into here just to power it up. And then I'll run the wire to the pump. We'll go down and tap into the umbilical for the battery cables and terminate down there at the pump. So I can turn my pump on, turn my pump off. And that'll be independent from the ignition system. This will be a constant hot wire. Just on and off no matter what the situation is, as long as there's a battery in the boat. I like where that is. It's still easy accessible. So I'm going to finish getting that wired in, and I'll see you in a little bit. Alright, so I got my wires tapped onto my switch here. I'm going to run the independent power wire. I'm not going to mess with any other wires in there. These wires are cut long enough that I can stick around with this bundle here. And we'll circle back through this wire. I'm going to put a put a eye on. It'll slip onto the ignition right here. That's my stern light wire. So this one will come in, be my bilge pump wire. This wire here, we're going to wrap around with the umbilical, or wrap around with the wiring harness here, and then hit the ignition wires and run down to the pump. So let's get the eye put on here and get that mounted into the ignition wire there, and then we'll hook up the rest of it. Alright, so we got the switch wired in, we got the ignition box rebuilt. I run a piece of wire loom down with that umbilical, protect the cable there. It goes back around up under my bench seat and ties into the power line to the bilge pump. The bilge pump is a Rule 2000 gallon. So, no key in my ignition and it's turned to the off position, I still get the bilge pump working. I also have it on the float switch. And depending on the situation, I left it attached to the switch panel. So we turn the panel on and we turn the pump on. So all three switches work to the bilge pump.
Got my master switch, turns all the power to the panel, and my pump switch. Pump switch off, pump switch on, master switch off. Still got my toggle and the float switch down here. We're ready for the leaks.
Yeah, this is really one long project. It took me about an hour trying to figure out where I was going to put the switch, open up this ignition box, getting all the wires straight, and running the wires somewhat neatly. May later on, if I got to bust things open, run everything through one wire loom. Not a bad project. I've got a good bilge pump switch. It's awesome. I can't wait to get back on the water, and I'll see you down the river.